Welcome people to numero uno, number one, the first vlog in hopefully quite a long series. I thought, what would be more fitting in these troubling times, what with COVID-19, it is now 2020, with the worldwide pandemic of COVID. I thought we'd start the new channel with the first in the series, vlog 1, in my hometown of Tredegar. And I think the best thing we can do is visit, for our first cemetery, a cholera cemetery. I got some notes printed down that I've done some research for, so I'll read through some facts and figures for you. The cemetery that we're going to go and see is Cefngola Cholera Cemetery. It's known as a scheduled monument, which means that it's looked after by the heritage, and it dates as far back as 1832 was the first burial there. Now it relates back to the 1831 cholera pandemic, which was worldwide. There was a further pandemic in 1849 and 1855. Just in the UK alone, there was 50,000 deaths in total. But as I said, the first burial in the Cefngola Cholera Cemetery was in 1831. They continued through until 1855, the last being in 1865. Now they were set aside from the regular cemeteries because of what was thought to be the infectious nature. Very few people would actually help bury the dead, and the cemeteries themselves were set aside far away from general public. Several thousand people were killed here in the UK in the 1831 pandemic. The 1849 outbreak again killed thousands. The headstones, like I said, they date from 1832 to just about 1866 with the last one. There's not that many of the headstones remaining due to weather, vandalism and general erosion. Finally, there has been some barriers put around the cemetery site. I'll take you out and we'll have a quick look around in a minute. But I've got a little poem that was written. It's not legible on any of the headstones anymore, but it was written on the headstone of a young man called Thomas James. He died in the 18th of August 1849 pandemic. He was 24 years old. The following was what was inscribed on his headstone. One night and day I bore great pain. To try for cure was all in vain. But God knew what to do me best, did ease my pain and give me rest. Now that was carved onto his headstone way back in 1866. As I said, we can't find the headstone itself. I have looked. It's lost through time. The rain has finally stopped. We'll go out and have a look. Now, the cemetery we're going to go and see is situated between Rumney and Tredegar in the South Wales Valley, in Blaen y Gwent, the South Wales Valleys in the UK. It's set on top of a hillside, as you'll see, pretty remote, but there is another cemetery a few hundred yards away that's split each side of a main road. That's also known as the Cefngola Cemetery. But the Cholera Cemetery that we're going to see is set off on its own grounds. We'll take the Nikon camera with us, see if we can get some nice shot stills as well. Put those in the video. And then we can call this a wrap for video 1, vlog 1. Let's go and have a look at the cemetery, see what we think, take some shots, and go from there. Stick around people, please. Can you help me grow the channel by clicking subscribe, click the like button and the little bell icon so you can be notified when the next vlog is up. Thank you. Let's go and have a look. Right, so as you can see, we've got a little feeder pond, and then we're surrounded pretty much by hillside, wild horses, sheep, and then that's Tredegar town over there. We'll take a closer look at that. This way is the cemetery. Now, from what I can gather, this little pond here was a feeder lake for the steel works and iron works that was in Ebervale and Tredegar. There is an old farmhouse that's been converted back into a home. And there is another cemetery behind the wall that we can see. That's split in two between the main road. And we'll take a look in there once we've seen the collar cemetery. There's the collar cemetery that we're coming up to. See the railings? And the sheep. I said it's pretty remote up here. It is quite a bit of traffic because there's another town, Abertusog, just over the hill. So you've got quite a few cars going back and forth there. But this is what we've come to see. This is what remains of one of the oldest cholera cemeteries here in the UK. As I said earlier, from 1832 was the first burial here, and that was of the 1831 pandemic that spread worldwide. We got some muddy terrain. Good job we put the old walkers on. And you can see it's not too far off the main road. That's the van over there. Here we are. She's finally been fenced around. Like I say, a lot of the headstones, this area was once the cemetery as well, and a little further down, but because the headstones were destroyed and vandalized, they basically just cordoned off this section. So we'll go through the gate if we can get through with the backpack on. Let's take the backpack off, because we're not as thin as we used to be. So there. Right, so I'm going to drop you down a little bit on the tripod, so like that. So there we are. This is the Cefngola Cholera Cemetery, 1832 to around 1866 was the last recorded burial here. As I say, the main Cefngola Cemetery area is over there, but they would put the cholera burials basically out of the way due to the infectious nature of it. As you can see, most of the headstones are gone. There's a few surviving. We'll take a walk around, then we'll have a look at taking some photos for you. Try not to walk on any of the graved areas. But you can see quite a few of the graves have collapsed in, the ground has sunk, because obviously these are hundreds of years old now. And as I said earlier, a lot of the engravings are ineligible. But we'll have a look around. You can see how tightly packed they would have buried them by the depressions. I'm taking it that each one of those would be a grave that's collapsed over time. Same here. You got one there, less than 3 feet apart, so they were packing them in fairly tight. You got some inscription here. "27th of March 1866. Joseph Liam, I think it is. So again, that goes to show 1866 was about the last recorded burials here. Some of the headstones was written in English, and others, because obviously that was a spoken language here quite heavily in the 18th century, would have been Welsh. So quite a few of the headstones will be written in Welsh. Unfortunately, even though I am Welsh myself, I don't speak very much Welsh. Something I would like to change, should change really. But here we are. Let's have a carry on a little tour. We're going to be careful where we walk in and try and be as respectful as we can. I suppose you could take rub-ins of some of the headstones to get a better view. There's a Lord's Prayer I can make out. I think it's 1859 maybe. Like I say, there's no real upkeep have been done of the area. It is what it is. It's just been left. Here's one of the Welsh stones, Edward Davis, I think, and then Welsh. They say Welsh is something I'll have to change. You can see some of the bars have been vandalised already by the idiots. Why can't people just and like I say, some of these would be headstones and footstones as well, because years ago they would have footstones in the ground. You've got the coffin shape outline there in stones. That one, I think that's 1860, 1869. Again, it looks like Welsh. Some flowers. As I said, it's a shame really to see it go to this condition, but another one, 1819. Or 1829 maybe. But I know, according to the documents, it's around the 1832 is the first recorded burial here. Whether members of the family were later buried here, I don't know. Again, there's a lot of head or footstones that's buried. I'm not going to be disrespectful and try digging any or moving anything to get to them. They are what they are. As you can see, some of these graves have collapsed quite a bit, which something like that would lead me to believe that there would possibly be two burials there for that amount of subsidence. Another coffin shaped burial. You can see the stonework coming in, and then there would have been a headstone here. Another depression. Again, you can clearly see now the footstone with the headstone, and that one's 1849. That's August the 12th, 1849, in memory of Morgan Griffiths. Morgan Griffiths, 1849. So that would have been the second pandemic that hit the UK and Wales. Again, this is to Mary something wife. 1849 August, 29-year-old female, sacred. And from what I've read, the pandemics were so bad here in the South Wales Valley, especially here in Tredegar and Rhymney, was that there wasn't a street in Tredegar that was not affected by the cholera pandemic. Somebody, somewhere, in every street of the town would die. And it was that severe that you could be fine in the morning, no problem, feeling great. You could be dead by supper time. It killed people that quick. As I said, I've read that there wasn't a street in Tredegar that didn't feel the effects of it. Not as severe our COVID-19, but still a pandemic, one we need to take seriously and do things about. But we're here for the graves, so let's have a look. There's probably low 20s headstones left, and I think there was a couple hundred buried here at one point. It went down as far as where the sheep are and up to almost where the banking you can see by there. There's quite a few toppled. And like I say, time has taken its toll. That, again, you can see now, looking down at the headstone, you can see the coffin shaped stonework that was put over. I don't know if that would have been filled with chippings or whether there would have been a stone on top. There seems, but I'm not sure if that's a fallen headstone. Again, you've got the footstone. And again, a deep depression, so I'm only surmising, but I would guess probably more than one burial for that amount of collapse. And it would have gone right down and around. Now again, I have heard that quite a lot of people was buried up here, poor families, entire families, and they were in unmarked graves. The headstones you see now would have cost a lot of money back in the 1800s. They weren't just put on out of the goodness of people's hearts. So there is quite a lot of graves up here that are not marked and will never be found, purely because the people were that poor they couldn't afford, and their family couldn't afford to put a headstone on. I've just come across some of the original boundary fencing here. Now there was some fencing put up turn of the century in the 1800s when the cemetery was first put here, just to keep people out, but it was, from what I've read, it was destroyed not long after. So there's some of the remaining boundary line which would have led off up and led off down. So there she is, Cairngorla Cemetery. Not much to see now, but a hell of a lot of pain and suffering for people back in the day. As I said, over 50,000 between the 3 pandemics just in the UK alone, and not a household, sorry, not a street untouched in my hometown of Tredegar at the time. So I'm going to unpack the Nikon camera now, get some still shots. I'll drop them in at the end of the video. Hope you've enjoyed this little walk around our first vlog, our first cemetery. Like I said, couldn't be more relevant at the time. A cholera cemetery, a pandemic that happened. Much the same as our COVID pandemic at the moment. So stay safe, people. Hope you've enjoyed it. Please like, subscribe, hit the icon bell. Any comments you want to drop down, if there's any cemeteries that you think I should visit, that you would like to see, please put some comments down below. For now, I'll sign off. I'll leave you with a few stills photos that we get. It's been fun. See you on the next one, people. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.